like to welcome you to our online session, the first one for the year for our Open Creative Spaces team, engaging students with hands-on learning. I'm going to introduce you to some of the members of our team. I think we have a slide for that that's coming up. There we go. So Thomas Stenzel, Caroline Buteau, Chris Colley, Sylvia Bielik, Michael Clark, Craig Bullitt, and Danielle Dyson are here, and I'm Christine Truesdale. So today, these members of the team are with us online, and we're part of the PED team at Learn. I'm going to take you through quickly the agenda so that we can get going with this. So what are we going to do today? We have an hour, a little bit less now than an hour. We're going to introduce the intention of our session, why we do hands-on learning. We're going to participate together in a little hands-on activity and debrief that process and have some closing reflections, share some resources, and hopefully this is going to be the first of a series of sessions, because 1 hour is a really short time to address everything and to really get our hands dirty, but we're going to try to get something done from the beginning to the end of a process in a condensed way during this hour. So I hope that you brought the materials that you're going to have with you to make, because we're going to get active during this session. So in the current situation that we're living in, what we're trying to address is the kinds of things that we've been doing for the past 5 years through Open Creative Spaces, getting students and teachers acquainted with the design process, with STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. We've traveled around the province. We've done workshops in our own space at the office, which you can see we're not in right now. We're all in our own homes. And we've facilitated some sessions online before the pandemic and COVID happened, but we've also been trying out and experimenting with all kinds of things. So our design challenge within the next coming year, I guess, and in the future is, in addition to the challenge that we have to keep students engaged and giving them access to multiple means of learning and giving them access to multiple kinds of materials to make meaning that's connected to themselves, we have the additional challenge now of addressing the new reality of the where. So where is that going to happen? In some cases it's at home, in some cases it'll be in class, and also the logistics of managing the kinds of materials that we want kids to be able to put their hands on. So we're going to have to put our creativity into action to make that happen. And I'm going to pass it over now to Sylvia, who's going to address this quote that we love.
Thanks, Christine. So, hey everyone. For those of you who have attended OCS days at Learn, you know that we always start with this quote, and we find it very profound and simple at the same time. So I'm just going to read it for you. For the things we have to learn before we can do them, we learn by doing them. You know, in there is everything that has to do with hands-on learning. We often want our students to succeed at something, and in order for them to succeed, we believe that we must front load a lot of things. We must give them the tools and equip them beforehand. And we realize very quickly when they start doing the thing that none of that has stuck, and actually the experience of doing it is the thing that sticks. And so there's a lot of richness that comes from doing things with your hands and just doing things without a lot of preamble. If I can have the next slide. So what we're going to be doing today, or we're going to be focusing on today, is this idea of engaging the whole learner. That's at the heart of our OCS, which stands for Open Creative Space, which we sort of adapted from makerspaces just to suit our context, which is a bit more broader, I guess, includes more of the arts, more creativity. We engage the whole learner, and we like to say that we engage the whole learner using the head, the heart, and the hands. This is a classic Waldorf approach. For those of you familiar with that, it shows up in a lot of the maker literature as well. Engaging the whole learner is about more than just engaging the learner intellectually, which is what a lot of traditional schooling does. And so when the heart and the hands are involved as well, you open up a whole vast landscape of learning possibility. So students that have been maybe less or middlingly successful with just one approach through their head are now accessing other parts of the way that they learn, and the whole child is therefore involved, and it's a very holistic approach. So I'm going to ask you the question, and you can answer in the chat. How many people are we at? 26. You can answer in the chat. So based on your experience or the way that you see things, why do we do hands-on learning? Why are you here in order to learn about this? Like, why is this a good idea? Why do we want our kids to do hands-on stuff? Kids love it so people are saying things like to explore. Kids love it, making it real. So it being a curriculum concept or an idea, something very abstract, making something real. It stimulates learners in new ways and helps them to be creative. Yeah, absolutely. It's fun and encourages a more profound understanding of what they're learning, real world learning. Yeah, absolutely. So, all the things that you're saying, those are the things that I think that we at Learn also believe. Some of you are being really poetic too. When we engage with materials, we go beyond illusions of competence, because seeing is not learning. Yeah, of course. How many of us think that we are actually good at something because we're sort of armchair, armchair hockey players or armchair whatever, and then when we actually get down to do the thing, we find that it's a lot harder, and that we learn things differently when we're actually doing it. So yeah, absolutely. Any activity that connects to an emotional experience is committed easier to memory. Yeah, these are all the reasons why we do hands-on learning. If we go back to the head, heart, and hand slide, we're really talking about how learning is the experience of the whole child, and therefore the learning becomes more anchored, and also more applicable. So there's an application to learning, and not just, it doesn't stay in the realm of the abstract. I love this. Deep Patel says, making mistakes and learning from them. Yes, failure, an important part of doing things hands-on is failing, and also what we call in French, dédramatiser l'erreur. So taking the stress out of failure, so that failure becomes normalized, and it becomes something that you look forward to because it allows you to move forward. So let's go to the next slide. So those are some of the reasons why we do hands-on learning. And one of the things that's important to remember, and this is something that we're gonna talk about briefly today, is that when we create an activity, or we create a situation or an experience for our kids, for the learners, we usually start with a purpose. So we have a pedagogical intention. And we have a reason why we're having them do something. And then that pedagogical intention is going to be the main driver, both for the process that we choose to have them engage in, and also the kinds of practice that we're going to have them do, the kinds of things. And those two things are important, but they always derive from a strong pedagogical intention. And what's nice is that a single hands-on activity can often have several intentions, or you can have several intentions behind it, and it can also be the starting point for many things afterwards. But it's important to be strategic when you plan something, and it's also important to have realistic expectations as to what it is that you're asking kids to do, and what it is that what the result of it, And we'll get more into that when we start to do our hands-on stuff ourselves, because it'll become maybe a bit more clear. And then of course, any kind of hands-on activity, whether it's small or larger, has to be anchored in a process. So students have to know that there's a process that they're navigating, because it'll make it easier for them to move through the different stages of making something. And of course, we can't forget practice. When students make things, they engage very practically, and there's often times when they see that there are certain things that they're not good at. A very easy example is when we do art bots or we do stuff with kids that involves duct tape. We see very quickly that kids are very bad at using duct tape, and it is very tempting to cut the duct tape for them. And sometimes we do, actually, if time is an issue. But cutting duct tape, or slicing duct tape, is a skill. It's a technique that will allow them to be better. So it's useful to practice that skill. Students will never be really good at something the first time on the first go. So this idea of practice means that it's not something that you do just the one time. Just like engaging the process, you don't want to just go over that process once. Think of the writing process, the response process, problem-solving process. How many times do you have to go over, do you have to go through that before the kids understand where they are in the process and the different stages involved? The same thing is true of practice. They're not going to be good at something if the practical aspect of your activity is a culminating one. If it's only at the end, you can be guaranteed that they're not going to be great at it the first time around. So building in multiple opportunities for practice is also very important when we're talking about hands-on learning. So realistic expectations and also practice will allow students to hone their skills, use tools, practice techniques, so that when there is going to be something that's more open-ended for them, maybe a passion project or something that's a bit larger in scope for them, they will have the skills, they will be equipped not only to make choices, but also to use the tools that they have at their disposal. So speaking of process, the process that we're going to be working with today, and I'm going to let Chris talk to that in a second, is a very simple one. You're going to have a mini design challenge, and you're going to go through a simplified 4-step design process. So you're going to get a design brief. The first step is to brainstorm. Then you're going to analyze, and you're going to build a prototype, and you're going to share. Chris will talk you through a little bit more, I think, of what a prototype is, what the expectation is, but it's important that you go through these 4 steps. Brainstorm first, then do an analysis of what is the design brief, what did I think of in my brainstorm, how do these things go together, what are my realistic choices based on what I have. So you're going to be asking yourself some questions. And of course, with students, we would go deeper into some of these things, but you're adults, so we're thinking that seeing this process, you'll be able to jump right in. Then you'll do a prototype, and then we'll take a brief moment to share, which might mean for some of us just holding it up to the screen like this. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I think it's over to you, Chris.
Great. Hi, everyone. It's good to be back. It's a different way of being back, but it's good to be back. It's good to see familiar faces and to kind of feel like a little bit of a community here. So let's get doing some stuff. We're going to do an actual whole process in like 10 minutes, just so that you get a feel of things that you can do with your students. Like Sylvia was alluding to, this is really brain practice. It's getting creativity and imagination going in a very quick way. And the point of it is to do it often so that kids get, their juices flowing quicker. And when it's time to actually get into a project that might be done over a week or longer, they have ideas and things that they already have reference to because they've experienced some of this already. So we're going to connect it back to, obviously, the situation we're living right here. So today's theme is you're going to build something that will help you with going back to school. Okay, I'll say it again. You're going to build something that will help you with going back to school. Now, I want to make this clear that this can be a real thing. Okay, it could be a ladder to escape your classroom when the COVID hits, if you need a ladder to get out, or it could be an imaginary door that I go into and it's utopian. So I have my little break. And so we're creating a prototype, which is kind of like a first draft. If we relate it back to ELA, for example, you always do a rough draft. Well, prototyping is that. It's a rough draft of something. It's not supposed to be the end result. It's quick and dirty, and it gives the kids an artifact that they can talk to. So it really kind of starts to solidify their ideas. All right, I'm going to switch over to my document camera. So you're going to see my hands here. Is that all good? I will turn my light on. I hope that's not, just so that we have a little bit more light. So these are called mini design challenges. We're going to give you a resource at the end of this where you can do this. We have 30 different ones you can do throughout the year with your kids. And we'll share that resource with you at the end. Again, here's our premise. I'm giving you a bit of time to kind of think right now as I go through this. We're going to build something that's going to help you with going back to school. Whatever that might be, there are no wrong answers. These are going to be timed. So we're going to start with our first step. Sylvia went through all these quickly. So I want you to get a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen or whatever you might need to do a little brainstorm. And I'm going to give you 1 minute. Wait, let me rewind. Look at your materials first. Okay, got some tape, we got some rolls here, got some elastics, some pipe cleaners, a little piece of cardboard, got my trusty popsicle sticks. Just look at your materials to start, and then start to think about, well, what can I make with all this stuff that answers this question? All right, so just write them down. Remember, no answers are wrong. It's just, you're just kind of dumping all your ideas out on a piece of paper. Take 1 minute and do that, please. I should have like the Jeopardy theme song going on.
You want people to do that now, right? So right now the minute starts for them to do it. Yeah.
Right now we have a minute, and I want you to brainstorm. Looking at your materials, thinking about the topic. I'll put the topic back here too. And remember, no ideas are too far-fetched or too crazy. The point of this is to really get your imagination, your creative juices going. So just write it down. Give you a few more seconds here. And this is a real model. We're modeling here what you do with your kids. I mean, you can do this online or face-to-face, but we're going to go through the process so you internalize it. Let me give you another 10 seconds. Yeah, sketching too is a great idea. Anything goes. Just put your ideas down on paper. Okay. So I want you to pick up your pen from your paper. Time's up. We're going to go on to the next step. So this first step is just so that we can generate as many ideas as possible. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to analyze. So what I want you to do is look through the list of your brainstorm and start making connections between similar ideas that you might have had. Maybe ask yourself these questions. How will it work? Who's my audience? Does it solve a problem? Think about those 3 questions as you look through and see what jumps out at you. I'm going to give you 1 minute to just go through your list, and I want you to come up with one single idea from that list. A few more seconds. No, Shelley, that's you're right on track. From those 4 different things, is there one that you would like to build? Okay, think about that. What do I want? Which one do I want to create? Which one do I want to prototype? Which one will I build with my materials? A couple more seconds. Okay, good. And you can see I'm not giving you a lot of time. I don't want to give you time. I want you to be inspired. I want you to feel like this is like you're at the gym, you know? You're trying to work that brain. So it's tricky. I'm telling you, it's not easy, but the more we do it, the better it is. So here we go into our build. Now remember, a prototype is simply a representation of your idea. This can be done with any content as well. It will illustrate if your students understand the concept you're trying to do. So we're going to prototype. So what I want you to do is now build your idea. You've come down with one idea, and I want you to take 10 minutes with your materials and assemble your page thing that's going to help you with going back to school. And again, I'm just going to repeat, it's a rough draft. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It's so that you can articulate what it is. That's really the objective. And one last thing, it can be real or it can be totally fictional. It's up to you. All right, so we have 10 minutes. I'm going to leave my camera on and I'm going to start building mine so you can observe if you want, if you don't. And yeah, all right, here we go.
If you'd like to turn on your camera so that we can see you at work, you can do that now.
Lisa. Hello, Ms. Steiner. Cool. And as you're building this, try to think of, we're going to share after this. Think of what you might, how you might want to articulate your creation. Because really that's where the meat of everything is right when you start explaining what you made. And if you have hot glue, be careful. Hot glue is hot. Safety is important. Okay, we're about halfway through. No panicking. No need to panic.
I lost my tape. I found my tape.
Can we get some thumbs up from the people online? Things are going all right? You all seem busy. That's awesome. Cool. We got about another 3 minutes or so. As you're doing this, I'll just tell you a bit about some experience that we had doing this with the grade 1 class last year. Nice, love it. So I did this with some grade 1 kids, and we spent half an hour, usually one Friday morning every week, and we called it Fun Friday. And the students, I timed them, we did the same timing, but what ended up happening was the kids then would bring this into their weekend with them, and they would spend most of the weekend coming up with different ideas. So again, it's a starting off point, but once the kids start getting into this, they really like to create more and more and more. So it's a fun kind of way of keeping the kids connected to the school, to their learning, and they're so satisfied with building stuff with their hands. Some really cool things we came up with. And I shared a whole bunch of stuff on our OCS. We'll give you a whole bunch of resources at the end of this, and we'll show you also where to get all the resources with the brown bagging it and we have a material list already. All right. Do you want one more minute? Is 1 more minute enough? Well, you have 1 more minute. Nice, Kevin. I like that. You're very artsy. Very artsy. Cool. We're doing good on time here, people. So I can give you, I'll give you a little bit more time here. Like that face. It looks like a wrestling face, a wrestling mask. And Sharon. Nice. This is fun too. Like the kids, when they're done, if they finish beforehand, they can just kind of watch what other people are doing. It gives them some great ideas as well. Even though we're kilometers apart, we can still kind of see each other and what we're doing. Okay, 10 more seconds, we'll wrap it up, and we will go on to the final step. So the last part of this prototyping process is to really share things. Is to give students an opportunity to see what others have done, and that in itself generates more ideas for the next time you do it. So it's kind of a gift that keeps on giving. Now, there's many different ways you can do it. We're not going to spend too much time on that this session, but we will do another session on how to document learning in a creative space. But there's some ideas. You could do this virtually, or you can do it through a journal, face-to-face. There's Flipgrid is a tool I put on there, blogging, etc. We want to try to keep track of trace evidence of the learning process. I really don't care if this works or not, but the words I'm going to use to describe this to you is where the goal is. So I'm going to present mine first, and then I'm going to call on a couple of others of you to do that. But before I do that, in the chat box, just tell me what you made. What was it that you created? Give me like a couple words that describe the creation that you did. In the chat box, go for it. Nice. Nice, good. Nice one, Brian. You need that. Cool. So as you put them in, I looked at the materials I had, and I wanted to make something pretty realistic. So I went with this is kind of a meter, a sense meter for at the end of class, so I get to know how my kids are feeling as they leave. And basically, it's kind of it makes different tones as I click on them. So 1 meaning, yeah, all good. 2, I'm pretty all right. And 3 is help, help, help. So this is kind of what I came up with. I mean, it's just, again, a prototype. There we go. What do you guys got? Is anybody like to share? You can turn your camera on and kind of show us what. Oh wait, did we want to do the all cameras on and show what we made? Michael, can you put the matrix up and everybody can turn their cameras on and just show us what you made? You just put it up in front of your face.
And go to
Can we
gallery.
get the matrix, or do we have to do it? Oh, you have to do it yourself. So in the top right corner of the Zoom, you'll see gallery view. If you just click on that, you'll see everybody's face, and you'll see all the things we made. Awesome. Nice. Oh, I love it. Cool. I like that. Colleen, yours looks really cool. They all look amazing. Nice. Nice. Awesome. Cool. So, can I have, oh, Bettina, what are you talking about?
Wow, nice.
Bettina, I'm very curious about this prototype. Do you mind turning your camera on and telling us what it is?
Yeah, sure. You cannot. So, what I made was a protect record device. So if you this would record like where the eye is, and this would project, and there's a video here for the Zoom, and it protects you. Like, you know, if you're not comfortable with going to school, you can wear this, and then, you know, instead of speaking, you can have your, like, you know, maybe your phone here, or like some sort of video screen that plays something. Maybe it's just your mouth speaking. And you could also maybe, because it's shiny, project something on it. So yeah, so that was my quick idea. And it's
excellent.
a little bit.
I love that. That's really good. Great idea. Would somebody else like to share? Thank you, Bettina. That was awesome. Anybody else? Shelley, go ahead.
So I wanted a face bracket because I'm so sick of sucking my mask in, and I'm getting a chin rash. So somebody showed me on Facebook, this woman had this great little plastic device that kept her mask off of her face,
wow.
so her voice wasn't so muffled. So
oh, cool.
Yeah, that's what I want. And
Very
I want it
good.
to be out of a solid piece of plastic so that I can just disinfect it easily by throwing it in some boiling water.
Wow.
What about is it going to rub on is it going to like rub on your skin? No?
This prototype is no good because, yeah, you do need a flat part here rather than a pointy part. And I also made it too deep. But I really want that off my face because
maybe surgical tape. Like maybe the edges with surgical tape or some sort of thing.
I think I really need, but can you disinfect surgical tape?
I don't know.
And what I want is something that's multi-use. Well, I can't patent it because somebody's already done it. But you can find them on Amazon. It's called a mask bracket, not mask extender, but mask bracket.
Cool.
Awesome. It's a great idea, Shelley. Great idea. Could we have one more person that would like to talk about what they created? I mean, 2 excellent ideas. And again, these are prototypes. They're ideas. It's not a finished product by any means. Once, twice. Kristen?
Yeah, I'll share.
Go ahead. Yeah,
so this is my shiny sign to get students' attention, to remind them that of the 2-meter rule, with the happy face to encourage good feelings, but to also remind them. Right. And it has a trusty handle here for extra grip in case I need to really. And when you speak it, there's a bit of
slippage.
Yeah, there's kind of a sound component as well. So
nice.
that was my creation.
Good for hurricane season too. Nice and solid.
Yeah, exactly. But I really enjoyed this actually. I don't, I'm a history teacher, so I don't do a lot of hands-on stuff. And, but I actually really enjoyed this myself as well. And it forced me to think about things creatively. And at first I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to make. And is my idea stupid and all of that. I imagine students have the exact same feelings. So yeah, I really appreciate kind of doing that and working through that myself. And then it was fun in the end. So.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good point, and I'm going to just kind of segue out into the end of our, well, not end, but our reflection piece. But really good point that you made, Kristen. And when I first do this with kids, I'll have some that won't touch anything. They won't touch the materials. They'll just sit there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long it is. And then they start looking at the others, and then we do it again, and then they slowly. So again, it's like practice, right? The first time it's always a little, ooh, I don't know, is it right, is it wrong? But once you do it once, and they see their other peers getting involved and excited about it, it becomes addictive to them. So excellent point, though. Excellent point. All right, so I am going to shift this over to not me.
It's me.
Okay, Sylvia,
I think
over
it's just
to
me.
you.
Hey, so it's really disconcerting. I'm just gonna make myself. Can everyone see me like in the corner and like there's me and the slides? I don't know. I don't know what you see. Michael, do you think I can have slide number 12? Oh, actually, Craig, were you going to talk about the documenting, capturing, and sharing your learning? Does that happening now as well?
Yeah, let me jump in. Hi, everybody. My camera just came on. Yeah, I'll just take a second. I think I'm okay. You can see that? Good.
Yeah,
So
good.
Thanks for sharing those. They were so awesome and multi-purpose. It's fun to see that and fun to see you guys. I just wanted to talk about capturing the process as much as the product, because we're in the habit of evaluating what the finished product is. And in a lot of these situations in a prototype, the process is so important, right? Because the end prototype might not work. But we need some sort of trail to get us there and to evaluate and give the students feedback and so on. A journal could be a good idea, right? You could have a Google Doc or Microsoft Office doc or something like that. A picture journal or even a video during the making part, especially. It's fun to capture the pieces, and those artifacts that you catch are good for evaluation because you have evidence of learning. And like I said, especially if the prototype doesn't work, the evidence of how they got to that place or the explanation of what it's supposed to do or what it could do potentially, that's what we want to evaluate, because that might be successful. And what you capture, also pictures or a journal or something like that, provides great visuals also, because the students may not present like they used to, right? Stand in front of the class and deliver a slideshow presentation. So it's going to come in many formats now, like a photo essay or a time-lapse video. Those are super cool. I just watched a swimming pool being built in a time-lapse, and it's so spectacular. But so important to have all the stages that led you to that, so that you can piece it together after, or a stop motion with Lego or plasticine or something like that, that you can upload to the web. The artifact will also allow reflection, right? So that the student afterwards, if you throw out a question, what were some obstacles that you experienced? And what strategies did you use to overcome those obstacles? Without those artifacts, those traces, you're going to get I don't know, I can't remember, right? But so those are gold. If you can flip back digital pictures or whatever it is and go, oh yeah, I remember I struggled with that kind of thing. Those are really important. And maybe one last thing on this slide, in the bottom right-hand corner there, you'll see the digital competency wheel. And without spending too much time on it, that's just a reminder that students just need to be aware of the role of technology in their own learning. So even a low-tech or a no-tech activity like a sculpture, if I make a sculpture, you might consider that no tech whatsoever, but maybe they watched how-to videos on YouTube or something like that on how to make it. And even afterwards, if they do make a stop motion or something like that, they can use Flipgrid or do a recording or something like that to to put those pieces together. So even when there's no tech involved, sometimes there's a connection to it, and it's important that the learner knows what that connection is to technology. So thank you. Michael's moving me along. So Sylvia, I'll put it back to you now and you can jump into your next slide.
Cool. All right, back to me. So we're counting down to the end of the session. So we're gonna start to sort of unpack a little bit of what we did. Just a reminder. So we started out, when we're doing something hands-on, it's important to have a purpose or a pedagogical intention behind it. You can start thinking about what maybe our pedagogical intention was for doing this activity with you today. That's something that you might be thinking about as I talk. But you're going to have one. An example, I made binoculars that allow me to see into the future, so I can predict when there's going to be a school closure or something like that. And it's a fairly banal object, but the thinking behind it, this idea, the ability to predict the future, that's a really good starting off point, for maybe a science fiction story or some sort of writing or oral storytelling that I might be doing. So that would have been, had I been a teacher, I might have had an other purpose than the thing itself. So there's nothing ELA-ish about this, but the talk that I do around it and the story that I might write based on it would be ELA-ish. So sometimes the purpose is not embedded in the thing that you're making necessarily. So think of that. You all engaged in a process. It was very brief. It was scaffolded, so you were taken through it. And then you had a chance to practice. You had a chance to make something and use some skills and tools. If I can go to the next slide, Michael. So 4 questions. We're going to start one by one. You can type in the chat. So the first thing is, how did it feel when Chris got up there and said, hey, you're going to make something. Here's the design process. And then he showed you those little pieces of paper. How did that feel? Oh, so that felt, yay, exciting. How else did it feel? I know you had feelings, so type them in the chat. Oh, challenging, a little scary. Yeah, where do we start? A little apprehensive. You're like, what do I do? Am I gonna get it? What am I gonna do? Exactly. There's that feeling of anticipation mixed with dread, and of course we're doing a Zoom, so you guys could have been all like, well, I'm just gonna sit back, I'm just gonna watch what people do or not do anything and then jump back in later. So that was your choice, but there was a feeling involved, right? So your feelings were engaged. You started having sort of human feelings, which is nice. And you know that your students have those feelings as well. And actually they have them whenever you present any new thing. So not just a hands-on thing, but they have those feelings whenever you present anything. And so for some of you, it felt familiar because that's your wheelhouse, as it were. People were not sure what they were going to do with the materials. Yeah, there's like that feeling of anticipation, and it's a bit giddy and also scary. So yeah, those are all very natural human feelings, and they happen even when you're presenting kids with a math problem. So they feel this all the time. All the time you're experiencing feelings. And those of them who experience a lot of failure and don't experience a lot of success are used to sort of having dread accompany every new thing. So every new thing is accompanied by dread. That's another feeling that they might have. So it's good to know about these feelings. It's good to normalize them and name them so that kids can move beyond. Yeah. Those are great. I love the answers, the very honest answers and very human, and that is who we are. So number 2, so the green question, why do you think we did this with you? Why do you think in an online Zoom session, why do you think we had this hands-on component? And that was the brief itself. So any ideas?
Sylvia, maybe somebody wants to hop on and use their words too. They want
yeah, absolutely. If someone wants to
instead of type it.
Because I have because I don't see everybody in my view, I'm not able to see if someone's like raising a hand or something. Yeah, absolutely. If somebody wants to jump on and just say, use their words, that's fine with me. Yeah, so you're saying things like showing that it can be done, showing that it's possible, feeling like students are having an authentic experience, so we can empathize more. Obviously, we practice what we preach. Yeah, confidence and creativity. Adopting and adapting. Yeah, so we're modeling something for you. Yeah, so all those things are true. Those are all our intentions. So those are exactly the intentions that we had when we decided to do this. We wanted to show you that it's possible. We wanted to show you that it can be very short. We wanted to show you that you can engage in a process in a very brief period of time. And actually, sometimes the time might add to the thing. I'm not gonna get into that. So moving on to another question, what was it like to prototype? What was it like to do something with that time schedule and with the materials that you had and the ideas all colliding? What was that like? So you had the feelings at first, then you got into it, and then what was it like to prototype? The pressure was on to move, to work fast, and it was exciting to move from passive to active. Yeah, there's an excitement there, you know, when you're touching the stuff and you're tangibly doing something, and there's still some uncertainty. Sometimes you don't know what you're doing, but you're already doing it, right? And so that feeling is really sort of precious. The time felt a bit tight. Yeah, sure did. We on purpose made a tight time frame because we wanted to get that into that 1 hour with all the pieces. Yeah, we had Chris's cool gadget. I was sort of ignoring. I made, like I said, I made something very, very simple and banal. Although you see that I've got a little spacer here from my nose. I made something simple and banal, and I could see Chris working away, but it didn't faze me. I'm used to people doing stuff around me, and so I think that that's another thing that we can get used to. That people are doing different things, and not get stressed, but get inspired.
Sylvia, one other thing too, I'd like to just chime in for a minute is, did you realize that I gave everybody the same directive? So we had to make something to go back to school with. We had different materials, but we went through the same process. Why is it that you think that we all came up with different things? Why didn't we all come up with things that were similar in the end? Because we had the same leading question or the same pedagogical intention, same process, different stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
We all have different needs, yeah. Everyone has different perspective. Yeah, it was an open-ended creative prompt as well. We definitely have different needs, and our perspectives are all different, and we are a fairly homogenous group in terms of the fact that we're all educators. So you would think that in a fairly homogenous group, we would come up with similar things, and yet we didn't. So it does mean that even in fairly homogenous groupings, we are all individuals. And so the more open-ended we have things, the more chances are to engage kids' sort of hearts, allow them to make choices. I saw a comment go by that the interruptions were distracting. Yeah, and we as teachers are often giving students consignes and often, having them pay attention to us. And yeah, maybe it would have been better if Chris had said fewer things. So I see that was frustrating for at least one person. And then the final question, what was it like to work with your hands? These questions are overlapping. You might be saying this, your answer to this one might be similar to answers that you had before. But what was it like to do something with your hands? Liberating, that's a beautiful word. Liberating. What do you mean, Caroline, what did you mean by liberating? If you want to share, you can try.
What I meant is that it's something different. It gets me out of my comfort zone. Yeah. So it's kind of liberating. That creative process just, it makes me think out of the box, and I'm on my toes. So it really feels like, oh, okay, pressure's off. Like I'm not doing something that's routine-like. So it really felt liberating to me.
That's amazing. And Shelley echoes that, saying a relief. It was a relief to do something after all the talking that we hear a lot of. Yeah, you know why? Because we are complete people. We are a whole person. We are not just a head, and this body that we have is not just this flesh package, you know, that contains our head, our big brain, big pulsing brain. No, we are all these things, right? We are all the things, including, and our hands are, you know, the way in which we experience the world. And we have opposable thumbs, and we are human. That's the hands are so important, and the things that we create, we infuse with our spirit. I mean, again, personal belief. I'm not imposing that on anyone. And I see that I misunderstood, and there was actually the doorbell. Brian thought, Chris, he thought you were awesome, and it was just the doorbell that was distracting. Anyway, but still, you know, it could have been our interruptions that would have been annoying. And sometimes you can see in kids' faces, they're like, oh, enough already. Stop with the instructions. Just let me do the thing. So it could have been that.
I think Monica was saying too that it's nice to do something different in front of the screen. That is one of the things that we wanted to model, that just because you're online in the screen, you don't have to be passive. You can actually be doing something, and you don't have to have a PowerPoint and lecture to it for 50 minutes. And
Right.
But of course, depending on, I think people were asking, what are the different kinds of things you could do? Today we had a really diverse group, and we had to pick a task that would relate to everyone in some way. So we were able to, we think, pick a piece that was general enough and that you could build with your materials, but that could still speak to you somehow, to your reality. And I think we have to think about the pedagogical intention that we have in our subject, but then also, how is this going to relate to the kids? So you have to think about who the students are, the age appropriateness of the task, and the materials that they may have, and the technologies that are available to them too. So that's something that we can deal with in different ways based on the subject areas and the process that's involved in them too, which is something way bigger than just in one hour session, really. But for sure, it can be done.
Right. We're nearly out of time, and we are gonna, I think that some of the questions that you've had in the chat, especially the ones that we didn't answer, they're going to be springboards for future sessions that we're going to have. So as Christine said, you know, we wanted something that was for elementary and secondary today. It was like a very diverse group, but we will have in the future things that are more focused, maybe for high school, maybe some for elementary, where you might explore that further. We have 2 minutes left. So I wanted to get you to think about what is one hands-on, if we can go to the next slide, what is one hands-on idea that you will try to implement with your students? So maybe over the course of this session, something came to mind, you've got an idea, something you know came to you, and that you might want to share it, that might inspire other people. If, for example, you're like, look, I'm still out of ideas, I'm still trying to wrap my head around why I would do this, how I will get buy-in, that's okay too. And you can write that also, because we will we take those into consideration for planning future sessions.
So there's just one thing too. People, Shelley and Christine have asked about timing. When I first do this activity with students, like I did with you, I said, do you need another minute? And most of them would say, yes, I need another minute. So you start around, you know, with 10 minutes, 8 minutes. And then if they need more at the first few times, say, okay, I'm adding another minute on, go for it. So you can kind of gauge it that way by asking them where they're at. And if they're still feeling very anxious, then just give them another minute. So it will shorten over time because they get more used to it, they get more practice. But I usually, that whole activity I do with a grade 1 will take us about 20 minutes. And that includes the sharing as well part. And then there's other ways that we can share as well online, but we'll do that in another session, just to answer the timing.
Yeah, and there's a question about what do we recommend for grades 1, 2, 3 for the cycle 1. I think that it really depends on what your intention is. Right now, our intention here was to do something quick to get something started. If you want to do that and have a series of quick things that culminate in a bigger thing, then you would adjust your timing for that bigger thing accordingly, right? And you might, and the bigger thing might be as homework, or might be done outside of school, or might be done during a lockdown or a shutdown, you know? So like, this is extremely context dependent. I see that we're massively out of time. I'm going to throw it over to anyone. I don't remember which member of the team is going to close completely, but I think I need the thank you slide. Yes, that's the one. We will be hosting more of these. Christine can tell you more about that as we close.
Yes, so we will be providing the recording of the session and posting the questions in a doc that we'll share with you. And we always also post things on our OCS site. So this says Learn Quebec, but it's ocs.learnquebec.ca. And we will be hosting, like we said, multiple sessions across the year. And it was really great to have you online and participating in such an active way. So it's great to see you.
It was really great to see you, everyone. See you soon. Take care.